see if my laptop wants to talk.
In 900.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So the N900 works.
Yes.
Works about the
laptop.
And here it comes. It's a Nokia.
It's a flash.
Yeah, that's
the N-word.
Yeah, I did. But it doesn't give me anything.
Is that a big problem?
It's not a big problem. It's just kind of annoying.
Oh.
In my opinion, the format substitute for actually, I don't know, using the DocBook the correct way.
No, I guess it's just what's selected.
You use it, it just makes you take up some bits in the pretty much. And the worst part is there's stupid auto gens in
Really?
for generating piece of work, they run auto gen with the old market using it installed.
Yay! So, welcome everybody. Sorry for the little delay. Help yourself to some coffee. So the talk I'm going to give about right now is it's about Contact Touch, or how KDE PIM decided to go mobile. And this is a talk about the project which we have done across multiple companies. First of all, who am I to come and do that talk? Because of all the people who worked on that project, I should probably be the last one to be talking about it. So who am I? I'm a professional Qt developer. I'm working at KDE. I've been working there since 2004. A few of you may have seen my face already. Lately, I've been based, well, on and off between San Francisco and Houston and France. So you know, it's been a lot of traveling. I mainly work on embedded platforms and a little bit on mobile devices as well. As far as KDE is concerned, you will mainly find me hanging out in the KDE Windows room and working on KDE on Windows stuff. Well, that is when my job leaves me a bit of time to do that. Lately, I've been known for working a bit on Kontact on Windows, as well as Akonadi, as well as working on dbus, and in particular merging the dbus version which we had running on Windows back into the upstream source tree. So if there are any people from freedesktop.org there, I've probably been working with these people, at least as part of merging our version which was called WinDbus, which was a fork of an old dbus 1.2 back into the upstream repository for 1.4. And for the Contact project, which was also called Contact Mobile, I was involved in the early phases of the project for mainly the groundwork, which consisted in setting up the build environment, the cross-compilation environment and toolchains for Windows Mobile, and pretty much, you know, trying to get the darn thing to run on the device. Once we started to see the first application starting up, that's when I had enough and decided to move on to the other projects, leaving all the fun work of debugging to my colleagues. So for those of you who are not familiar yet with Contact, or with Contact Touch for that matter, I'm expecting many of you to be familiar at least with Contact, which is the KDE Personal Information Management Suite on KDE 4. And Contact Touch is basically a new version of Contact, but based or targeted at mobile form factors. That includes smartphones and tablets at the same time. What we have ported is the mail component, the calendars and task components, the contacts, and the notes. As part of the Contact mobile version, it is based on Contact and Akonadi. So part of the work was also porting Akonadi to make it run on mobile devices. What I'm going to present here is mainly the project. as I mentioned earlier, this was part of a contracted project with a customer, of course, which meant developing that as part of the open source code. So I'm going to just give you a summary of that project, how long it lasted, how it went, basically, who was involved. Then I'm going to show you or present a few interesting technical challenges that we faced during this project, at least those that I've been involved with. And that included porting the KDE PIM stack to Windows Mobile, which you can imagine was a lot of fun. And also designing a new UI for touch-based interaction. But I was actually not directly involved in that one, but I've been following it close enough, so I guess I can hopefully give a close enough overview of the pain that is involved as well. And then I will talk about the outcome, because this project was recently completed. We actually have a released version of Kontact Touch, which was released officially in January. And so we can talk a bit about the lessons we learned from that, how this has benefited KDE in general, and we might even start daydreaming a bit and imagining the future platforms that we could see Kontact Touch on. Sorry. So let's start a bit with the project itself. We can really talk here about a project because despite being an open source, despite being based on KDE and the open source community, this was actually a project contracted by a German government agency. It's the same agency which has contracted our companies in the past already for example, implementing or working on bringing Kontact to Windows, or improving Kontact through the use of Akonadi. I know this may not sound like improvements to some of you, but it is in a way. And so on and so on. So this is a German government agency who is interested in having their own employees and their own people using Kontact instead of Outlook or Lotus Notes or any other type of software. Why are they so interested in open source software and Kontact? That's because they recognize that the only true secure way of communicating between their employees is going the open source way, because they are not in themselves sure that, what guarantees them that Outlook doesn't have backdoors for the CIA, or what guarantees them that, the Russians have put backdoors in Lotus Notes, and so on and so on. So for them, the only true way of having complete control and knowing that what they are doing is secure is by going the open source way, which is the right way. So this project has been a cooperation between multiple companies. Not the first time, but we've never brought it to that level. It was, of course, a cooperation between KDE. We mainly worked on the development and UI design. I was also involved in Integration. That's a German company who worked on the infrastructure, the packaging, and quality insurance. G10 Code, it is another German company who worked on the development and crypto features. These guys, by the way, are the guys behind GPG for Win, and they are the GNU-PG experts around. And finally, that also involved Applique, which is a small company who we hired for usability and UI design review. Okay. Through the process, we also had contributions, of course, from KDE developers themselves. So although the project was, I would say, in the terms of a contract, we still remain open for external contributions. And all our development was happening in the KDE source repositories. And of course, all the work which has been done is available in all upstream public repositories. So for example, when we did work for DBoss, bringing DBoss back into the upstream repository, we included our, part of the project was to merge our existing branching of DBoss back into the free desktop repository. As far as KDE was concerned, we did we did work in our own branch in there, but all our work was committed in the upstream KDE SVN. So, what were the platforms we targeted for that project? This is where this is where the truth hurts. But our primary platform was the HTC Touch Pro 2, which is this phone which I have here, which runs on Windows Mobile 6.1, actually 6.5. There's a typo in there. It's 6.5. Not that it makes a big difference. Our secondary platform was the Nokia N900 running Memo 5. However, I tend to, yes, if we have it there. I want to mention that contractually, the people didn't really care about the N900. Contractually, we had to have the thing running on the HTC. Why? Simply because this is, at least in Germany, and when the project was started, this was like the standard business cell phone. Here again, the key to understanding is that the end users are actual politicians and administration people who do lots and lots of email. So they have their standard phones, which they all have, and so this was standard phone provided by the government, and we had to have our stuff working on it. The words fail me to describe what a pain this phone is. So yeah, I'd rather not get into that. Brings me goosebumps. So the main features which we needed, well, which were involved in this project, a QML UI, or best known nowadays as QtQuick. We were actually one, if not the first, actual, life-size project to make use of QtQuick, even way before it was officially released. The work on the QML UI started as early as January 2010, which was like, 1 year ago. So we did have the fun of going through all the evolution and internal changes of the QML internals and QML syntax and so on, which was a lot of fun. But nevertheless, we see that this went pretty well, and although there was a high risk involved, the result is quite satisfying and quite impressive. Of course, supporting POP and IMAP secure mail with, of course, obvious SSL layers. Collab calendar tasks and contacts, simply because these agencies and these people already use Collab and Kontact on the desktop, so they needed to have access to their calendars and notes and tasks on their cell phones as well. And finally, we also, a critical component was the crypto features using GPG and SMIME, both for signing and for encryption. So we needed to get all that stuff on this little object. And we did that in approximately 1 year. The project started in January 2010. We got our first proofs of concept and demos running on the N900 as early as April. In parallel, we were working on the Windows Mobile porting the KDE PIM and the KDE stack on Windows Mobile. And we got the first apps running in about, actually it was earlier than August. We got the first basic apps running, I think, as early as June. But stabilizing, what I mean the first apps, I mean the first Kontact apps, where we got them around August. In June, I remember the first one we ever got was kconfig. No, it's not kconfig, which the one for selecting the debug output and the log and stuff. That's
debug dialog.
Debug dialog.
yeah, I think that's this one. Well, that's the first one that came. That was part of KDE libs, and that's the first thing we ever ran with the thing, which is we were pretty happy to see it running. It looked like crap, but we were happy. Then work continued on finalizing the UI and stabilizing, a lot of stabilizing, as you're going to see, on the Windows Mobile platform, and that took us through November, where we released our first beta, and finally the final delivery was signed by the customer in January 2011, which was, yes, just a couple of months ago. I also want to mention that this project involved approximately, I would say, 15 people, pretty much full-time, working in parallel across other companies. So this was a massive project in many ways. So before getting into the gory details, which I'm not looking forward to, I'd like to give you a quick demo. So I have the N900 being plugged in there, if it works. So that would be video. All right. So So yes, I don't have the cable for the, and then it actually runs better on the N900, so no, it's not gonna look as ridiculous there.
I'm just realizing
I have a USB cable if you want.
For the HTC?
Oh, for the
Yeah, no, I meant for the HTC.
Is it the little micro USB?
No, this one is fine.
Okay.
No, just that usually when I want to demonstrate an N900, I don't use the video out.
Ah.
I VNC into the N900.
Okay, that's
It's much cooler.
It's true, it's true. Wow.
It's got the geek effect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have the, the wow effect of showing the stuff instead.
Okay.
So let's start with Kmail, which is the mail part of Contact Touch.
It's got the sexy already.
Yeah, you see, it's pretty good. So let's use our test connection. Will you stop taking up the nice looking, why should I, no, I don't want to. It took away the nice looking splash screen made by our friend Nuno. So, but you all recognize his style, I'm sure. It looks pretty cool, I know. Okay. So this is the main user interface provided by Contact Mail. So on the left, we have the different accounts that that you have set up. So of course, a lot of the features from Contact are supported. So that includes multiple accounts and multiple inboxes. Okay. On the left here, when I swipe my finger, we have the panel, the Actions panel, which contains the different options. Okay. So here we see we do have a problem connecting to the demo, to the Collab demo. Okay. Maybe the connection is broken or something. Okay. I will figure it out later on. For the moment, let's just navigate through the folders. So navigation through the folders here is done, of course, using your nice little fingers. You can scroll through the different subfolders, and you have the contact list and the message list on the right for each folder.
I like it.
Okay. So I see some mails from Leo, okay, who's been testing a lot of standards compliant things. So nasty of you, Leo. Okay, and so messages are threaded. So there's the concept of message threading. Okay. And if I click on any of them, it takes me to the actual view path. All right. Which this one might, look familiar to you. It looks very similar to Contact on the desktop. So the two buttons at the bottom here allow you to either reply or get back to the message list. The small one, the blue one at the bottom, gets you back to the message list. Support, as you can see, support for signing and encrypting. Let me try. We also have support for attachments. Where are they? Where are they? Scroll me, scroll. Thank you, Thomas, for this very. Scroll me more, baby. I totally enjoy that one. Okay, which takes us back to January. No, I didn't find any. So let's see what Andras has in store for us. Simple test, simple test. No, why don't you have normal? I don't want like complicated tests. I just want a simple mail with an attachment.
It's called
Test PDF. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this one shows a PDF. So we have here, similarly, we have different actions. So replying, forwarding, marking the email, creating a task, creating an event, and so on and so on. So you will find most of the contact features in there. Okay. Attachments, editing, and so on. Okay. So that's for the main part. Notice here the panel on the left, which we call the breadcrumb view, is a work of our colleague Stephen Kelly, who basically invented that view from scratch, as far as I remember. And so that's a pretty nice example of innovation, and you won't find that in any other software so far. So once we're done, okay, let's have a quick look at the composer. Oh, wait, I don't have internet, so I'm not sure it's going to work. Let's try anyway. This is when I wish I was called John Doe instead of.
Oh, neat.
Oh, I'm writing the subject, yes. Fail.
Look at you. Yeah, okay, it's cool.
And here you have the panel for the different recipients.
Oh.
Uh-oh. That sounds like a crash, or it looks like a crash, but we didn't see it. The point is I'm going to hopefully hear the little ding ding of my phone in the back. Cross your fingers at the bottom. Okay. This is sent. While this is sending, hopefully, let's move and have a look at the other applications. Contact Touch is a lot more than just the email. You also have calendar, contacts, notes, and that. So I'm just going to stick to the calendar and contacts for now, so we can move on. So, hello Nuno, look, you're famous. As if you need it. Sorry, way famous. Oh, email successfully sent. It's just about listening. My other phone. Okay, it will tell us when it's ready. All right. So the calendar works with the same concept of calendar folders. Okay, and then you can alternate between the different views. So here is the month view, the weekly view, and you have, of course, a day view and a timeline. Okay. So this allows us. Let's see what we have in event list. We have nothing in this one. I thought there was something. Okay, let's see if this one gives us anything. Oh, sorry. No, those two calendars are empty. So why don't we create something for today? Right. So similarly, here we have a composer. Okay. Stop it. Right. So let's move to April. I hope this is not bugged like it was last time. Yeah, it might work. So didn't select the right date. There we go. Okay, so Monday to Tuesday. There we go, all day. So here we have the possibility of this one now has been saved in our personal calendar. And here we go. This is the event we have just created before. Alright? So of course, those events will trigger as just like you have on desktop, those events can trigger reminders, and you can also trigger repeatability and so on. So here you have also the full functionality of Contact Desktop running on the mobile side. Alright? Let's have a quick look at the contacts. Alright. Okay, and this is like the contact view with contacts being saved in on your collab folder. So here we have our friend Bill. we can happen to send emails to. You can actually, yeah, one thing I'm missing there is the possibility of saying, you know, send email to. So we could say, hey, you suck. Oh, there we go. That might be this. There was a button. Okay. You see? Oh no, this is for editing. Okay, my bad. So this would be where we would set, you know, as well as the email and phone and stuff. You could also send and set the crypto, the the GPG and S-MIME certificates and so on. So let's just go back. I'm actually confused. Is it this one? I hope so. Okay. That's about it. Good.
What's the first steps link there?
Oh, that's a good question.
Documentation?
I'm not sure it works. Hey. Well, the first steps is, you know, click on it. And the first steps is learn how to, oh no, there you go. Learn how to use your finger. It's a bit slow. But this basically pops up a web page. I'm not sure if it's actually installed there. This is probably like a tutorial. I must say, oh, there we go. Oh, nice. So the purpose of this document is to provide you a few tips on how to use the Kontact applications. Further information is available at any time on the internet. So please contact the elders of the internet if you have any further questions. So this board, yes, exactly. I saw it coming. It's open like
You opened several.
yes, of course.
What does this do?
Push it more, push it more.
Yeah, I was pressing harder. That's why I was like. There we go. At least we're sure we've seen it. Okay. I haven't heard the sign of my email coming, of course. I see that. Oh. Yeah, no email from me for that. Good. Well, I'll make sure to fix the internet connection on that one later. Maybe is there a Wi-Fi in the room or?
Yeah.
Linux 2.
Okay. Yeah, I can try that. Anyway, let me just go back to my slides and give you a bit of background now on how this all happened. Oh really? Wow. In the meantime, actually, feel free to just have a look, play with it. So if you don't want to play with it, I don't. You can pass it on. Okay. So this is the HTC one. If you break it, you pay it.
Yeah.
And yes, well, you will see that it will break easier than you think. I'm talking about the software, of course. Yeah. So if you crash it, you pay it. So yeah, just feel free to play a bit with it and pass it around. So I can mostly talk about the part about porting to Windows Mobile. First of all, why would we even want to do something crazy like that? Right? As you know, porting to Windows is already an immense effort, which makes which involves a lot of work. So why did we even want to go to Windows Mobile? Well, the reason is that this, as I said, this was a requirement from the customer. Their official target, however, was the Touch Pro 2. We did try to convince them to move to the N900, but they obviously were not ready to, just replace all the phones of their employees just for our eyes, and just to please Nokia, which would have made a lot of sales for the N900. So we have to stick to it. Windows Mobile 6.5, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is based on Windows CE 5, which we can qualify as challenging OS. Challenging as in gave us a lot of trouble. But as you will see, it did have, it has been a positive thing after all. The components we did need to port were, of course, the KDE libs, KDE PIM libs, and KDE PIM modules. Note that we didn't port all of KDE, we stick to these 3 ones. And we did only port parts of KDE libs. We did not go porting Plasma on Windows Mobile, unfortunately. Although it wouldn't be that hard, we just did not have the time to do it. Underneath, we of course had to make Akonadi and GnuPG work on Windows Mobile. Qt already had a port, but we needed to do quite some work on it to just make it work good enough. And then, of course, all the low-level stuff, dbus, OpenSSL, SQLite, Boost, and so on and so on. So there was a lot of stuff to get working there. Windows C uses Visual Studio 2008 and the MSVC compiler for the toolchain and the build and the emulators, as well as the deployment tool. So the first thing we needed was, figure out how we're going to be able to, first of all, cross-compile and get the stuff packaged and running on the device. We needed a building and packaging tool. There we have been very fortunate in the way that we had one already, which is called Emerge. What is Emerge? Emerge is the KDE on Windows build packaging tool, which we already use for building the KDE source code on Windows. It happens to be to have built-in support for MSVC, QMake, and CMake. It's basically written in Python and provides recipes for different packages. So we had the basic structure. All we needed to do was basically replace the replace the MSVC compiler for Windows with the one for Windows Mobile. This took us already quite a long way, but we found out along the way that we needed a little more cross-compiling support than that. We needed basically to have the concept of host and target, so we could have some KDE tools running on the host, basically so we could build targets. However, this was added pretty easily. Another thing that saved us a lot of time is the KDE Win library. KDE Win, which you find in KDE support, is a library which already provides us with basically missing parts of the Linux, of the POSIX API for Windows. And it provides also POSIX replacements for Win32 API pieces. So with that, what happened is that Windows Mobile is based on Windows 32, on the Win32 API, but it's only partly implemented. So you don't have all of the Win32 APIs. So we had to fix and add stuff that wasn't in there. And there again, we used the KDE Win library, which plugged in naturally in the whole toolchain. And finally, our friend Andre Heineke from Integration also wrote a CAP packager, which basically creates installers for Windows Mobile, which for once proved to be a quite easy task, and which was done in a relatively short time. I was gonna, we're a bit short of time there, so I'm not gonna get into the details. I'm just gonna say that porting to Windows C has been a lot harder than we thought, in the way that Windows C is strictly, is strictly meant for embedded devices with limited resources. And the best way it enforces that is by limiting the resources of the operating system. So just to give you a quick examples, Windows C allows maximum 32 processes at the same time, including 5 of them reserved by the system already. 32 megabytes of virtual memory per process, including all DLLs being shared across all processes. So if you have a 10 megabytes DLL loaded by a system process, it will take 10 megabytes in your process memory, which leaves you with only about 10 megabytes total for working, which is very nice. This is the concept of DLL crunch, which means the more process open DLLs, the less if you happen to be the last process started, you have everything that is left after all the processes have already started. So all in all, the actual memory limit we had on the device for running stuff was 50 megabytes. That means everything. That means Qt, all the servers, the stack, the application code itself, the heap, the stack, everything. 50 megabytes is barely what Qt takes for loading all its libraries. So this is what we started with. So then we had a couple of stability issues as well with Qt. Those we found out later on. We actually found them when we were starting to have lockups and deadlocks and problems like that while testing lots of agents and threads communicating with sockets and so on. We found that there was actually a problem with the event handling being broken on Windows CE, simply because the thread mechanism there is slightly different than the thread mechanism on Windows desktop. So it took us quite some time and effort to figure those out and make it better. But I want to mention that all this work we did has been pushed into upstream Qt through merge requests and so on. So actually all this work is now upstream in Qt. Yeah, as far as I know, the merge requests have been merged in, so I think. But at least that was the idea. So some of the things we needed to do was, of course, a drastic code diet. We basically took everything out of Qt which we could, including the cursor, including the tooltips, including seriously, we took the tooltips out of Qt. Yeah, and you don't imagine the pain that was to go and fix all the code in KDE libs, which relied on Qt no tooltips. So that was a hell. But it was basically about, if we can save a few kilobytes of RAM here and there, it's worth it. So we actually went in the qconfig tool, took everything out, tried building, and tried fixing as we could. If there was something we couldn't fix, we would add a new feature, and so on and so on. Same for KDE libs. We actually went through all the CMake recipes and took out everything we could. So we only kept the minimal KDE core, a very minimal KDE UI and KIO. And actually, when I left the project, we had no solid at all. But I noticed that in the latest code, there has been a small solid backend which has been re-enabled, mainly for enabling battery usage on Windows CE. The second big thing we did was replacing all DLL usage with static libraries. The reason here is when you load a 20 megabytes DLL just for using a few functions, you're basically wasting 19.5 megabytes of RAM. So the easiest way, instead of just going through the code and removing everything by hand, the easiest way of getting rid of symbols you don't need is compile statically, because then the compiler takes care of removing everything you don't need. So this is what we did, which was also a huge work. And in addition, then other stuff we did was reducing the amount of processes, mainly through Akonadi. We switched to using resources in processes to use resources in threads. And we moved from MySQL to reverting to SQLite for the database engine. Okay, so just for the joke, we ended up writing our own program loader because we found that there is one thing that saves us in Windows CE. There is 800 megabytes of virtual memory space which you can use, which is normally available for shared memory, memory mapped files, and so on, which is mainly unused. So this was pretty much the only place we had where we could use where we could actually use the memory of the device. The problem is that this thing is not available through the normal stack and heaps, so we ended up having to write our own program loader, which would load the program not in the process but in this high memory thing, and relocating DLLs and stuff. Yeah. Actually, the person who did that insane work is Marcus Brinkman, who is one of the G10 code people. Who did that? He did that in 2 weeks, which is amazing. Well, when he told us, "Oh, let's write a custom program loader," we were like, "Dude, are you insane? Go get some sleep." He came back 3 weeks after and he had it working. I don't know how he did it. And we did the same with the heap allocator, because we found out that even just allocating images and icons on the heap were taking too much memory. So he did it again. He said, "Fine, I'll just write a malloc allocator, which loads in a high memory block, might have blocks in high memory instead," which he did also in 2 weeks. And so those are now available publicly, part of the WinCE tools on some public repository. But so this is what Kontact Touch uses on the Windows mobile phone to actually run. Okay, so the Kontact Touch UI, I will just skip through it because we're done. We've seen a lot of it already. I just want to mention that this was mainly a work done through the usability team of Appliki and Nuno Pinheiro, which you all know for being the man behind Oxygen. So he really helped us a lot. We chose QML for the UI implementation, which has proved very beneficial because Nuno was actually able to write some of the user interface himself. And he found that very exciting. Of course, the problem is, having been super early adopters, we have been faced to many, many issues. But at least the work with Nokia was, Nokia, the Quick people were really helpful and really worked together with us. As far as I know, we actually worked with 2 people from INDT. So we had Thomas Canabrava and I forgot the other Brazilian dude. Arturo, sorry. Arturo, who were actually partly brought in the project to help us with the most complicated Qt issue, which ended up with the novelties you've seen. Yeah, I'm finishing. So the aftermath, we made an application. What we learned from that, obviously, a mobile application is more than the UI, yes. The main problem we face here is resource usage. You cannot just bring an app from the desktop, especially something as massive like KDE PIM, and put it on a cell phone. Although the N900 tolerated it, it was clearly not a good idea. And through the work we did on Windows C, it actually forced us to make Contact Touch a truly mobile application. Okay? So for this way, cross-platform is good, and the work on Windows Mobile has been good, even for the N900. So was it worth it? I would say totally. An insane project, but insanely interesting as well. We have already Migo tablet port, and you can find videos on YouTube of Contact Touch running on the IDEA pad with a touchscreen. And we are, of course, targeting future platforms. Migo handset as soon as it becomes real. And why not maybe even Android with the recent introduction of Necessitas. So personally, I would love to see Contact Touch on my Android phone.
What's missing there for Android?
Well, I guess for that, not much is missing. We are mainly waiting for the port, the Necessitas, to stabilize. As far as I know, they don't have everything yet. I don't think Qt Quick is running yet. I think they only have Qt Core and Qt GUI, and not all of Qt GUI. So, but given the excitement this has given, and given the interest there is, I'm sure that there will be lots of contributions, and it will soon be in a usable state. So, as I said, this is on my list for Santa in December, and I do have a hope that.
That's too late.
Wow. At least I'm not taking too many risks. So that's it. Thanks for attending. And if there are questions, we can just take them afterwards.
So if we can hold questions, there was a request to have just an open discussion about mobile. We also have this room for several more hours. The Linux Foundation connection is better than this hotel, so if you want to hack, hang out, talk about mobile stuff, ask some questions, maybe play around with the phone, you're free to do that. Remember, the Noise Bridge party is tonight at 8 o'clock. There are some instructions here. You have internet here so that you can.
8.
It's 8.
It's 7 on some spot. The website.
Right, I changed it because it was incorrect. It's 8. I was the one who put it on the website, so it's definitely 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
On the Noise Bridge website, it's still 7.
Oh, well, I updated it. I'm not sure why.
It's 8 on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I updated the Noise Bridge website, so I'm not sure why it didn't take. It's 8 o'clock. Trust me. There will not be beer there before 8 o'clock, so there's no reason to show up. Anyway, I think this was a great first start to Camp KDE. Jeff will take us through tomorrow. So feel free to hang out, talk more about mobile. Oh, we should also clap. Thank you very much.